What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Quarters Podcast. We apologize for last week. I had a health concern, but I'm back. I'm about 75%, but we had to jump on here because I can't let Randy get away with his shitty picks in this one. We're doing a way too early 2026 NFL mock draft. This is way, way too early, but we want to have some fun out there. There's a lot of people doing it, so we wanted to dive into next year's class. We will be bouncing back and talking about this year's class, but it's always good to have a little bit of a break in between and talk about some guys next year, especially the quarterback spot. There's some great edge guys in this one and some great tackles. Finally, we missed out on the tackles this last group, but there are some legitimate tackles in this group coming up. So we're going to go through a whole first round, 32 picks in this bad boy. So stick with us here on the Quarters Podcast. All right, we're going to go through our first 8 picks. We're going to start with number 1. Randy had this pick, and I'll let him explain how we did the basically where the teams are at. Cleveland's picking first, so sorry, Browns fans out there. But Randy, where'd you take that from? And then why don't you give us your first pick?
Yes, we did the Vegas win total odds, and then if there's any tiebreakers, mixed them with Super Bowl odds. So unfortunately, that nets the Browns the first pick. But you take 2 shots at quarterback this year late in the draft. Clearly, if you're picking 1 overall, it didn't work. So you just take Drew Allar here, or your best quarterback. But for me, it's still currently Drew Allar. I will say, watched him a lot more than everyone else at this point, just because there's a chance he was coming out last year. But he brought his team all the way to the semifinals. He played really well all year, continued to grow and develop. Obviously, ended on a sour note for him, and I think he's going to continue for this early process to be a little bit lower because of that. But I think he was very valuable and did everything he could to just keep moving the ball, and then it all unraveled when he kept facing the best teams. But I do think he made a lot of really big-time throws last year and, didn't turn the ball over, which is something phenomenal and something that the Browns really haven't had since a healthy Baker Mayfield. So, or maybe veteran Joe Flacco. So I'm hoping Drew Allar can just step in and do that. Obviously, there's other quarterbacks in this draft we're going to talk about that you could place here. But again, if the Browns are picking 1 overall, they're probably having a new GM. I don't know about new coach, but either way, we're getting him a new quarterback, and we're trying to right the ship for the future.
Everyone, but I talked about Allar a lot last year because I thought there was a shot that he could be the number 1 quarterback in last year's class, with Ward being kind of inconsistent. It did kind of unravel towards the end. I think had he had a longer playoff run or a more dominant playoff run, I think maybe we would have seen him declare. I still think if he declared, he was the number 2 pick for the Browns. You don't get players that are this big, this athletic, and with this much arm talent very often. And I know people will say, well, you're just infatuated with the traits. Yep. So is the NFL. The NFL loves guys like this. So I do expect him to take a leap forward. In tracking Penn State spring ball, it sounds like their wide receivers are actually able to get open this year, which is a good thing because that just wasn't the case. I mean, Randy, you talked about the big game performances, and it's like, if you watch that Ohio State game, I mean, it's very rare that the reason Allar was failing was because he was making mistakes. It was just no one was getting open. He was trying everything he could. The rushing attack obviously helped him, but I know there are people that don't think Allar's very good. I think they're clinging to the year before where he wasn't very good. But I think he took a leap forward last year. I expect another leap forward this year. I think Penn State's going to have a very, very good football team, and I think Allar's going to be a big reason for that.
Yeah, and just so everybody, also, I should have mentioned this. This is my fault as the host here. We didn't have Arch Manning in this because we assume he's 2027. So the way we look at Arch right now, we're just going in the mindset that he's 2027 until we hear otherwise, because that's what his family has said. He wants all the starts. He wants all those things. If Arch was on the board, he more than likely would be this pick, probably there on the board. But Aller is there, and to your point, yeah, you've talked about Aller a lot. We make jokes about it, but it's because he probably would have been the number 2 pick, which still makes me think he made a mistake going back to school. Like, I really feel like he should have kind of gone out of there. And when I dived into my big profile on him, the biggest thing I think that he has the arm, he has the tools. We know all that. He still needs to work on his anticipation and timing and his consistency and accuracy and just kind of his handling pressure mechanics. Like, those things are all stuff that maybe lack of reps, but now this is his 3rd year. He's really no more excuses now. Like, this is his 3rd year of really truly starting now. So what we're going to see from him is what we get, I think, at this point. So it's going to be a big year for him, and he's got some pieces. Like, I still cannot believe he did not have a receiver catch a football in that semifinal game against Notre Dame. That is an insane stat. Like, and it wasn't his fault. Like, they just could not get open. Like, it was just incredible what was happening there. Well, not for Penn State fans. That was not incredible for you watching that. But I mean, had he had anybody, there was a possibility there. So yeah, no, that's a good pick. All right, I'm at number 2. Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward takes over. They obviously don't need a quarterback. Well, I hope they don't need a quarterback. I took TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson. It was between him and Caleb Downs. I'm going to struggle with Caleb Downs because I don't know what the teams are going to do with Caleb. He might be the most talented player in the draft, but safeties are one of those things where they're like, I don't know where they're going to go. So I took TJ Parker, 12 sacks last year. When you're looking at kind of the numbers, even on PFF, like, he has 80+ grades in pass rusher and run defender. So he does both pretty well. He's got a good frame, 6'3", 265. He's pretty much, in my opinion right now, a top 10 probably consensus, like, hey, where is he going as an edge guy? And Tennessee could use this. Like, Tennessee could use this on their defense as well. So Parker is a name. If you didn't know who that is, you should start realizing kind of who he is on the defensive line. Clemson is loaded. We talked about a pre-show about how they should be a favorite to win a national championship. And a big part of that is because of Parker.
Yeah. Isn't it nice doing these preseason mocks and having an edge rusher up here that actually has stats? Right. Unlike last year, I mean, he's been dominant. He's been one of the most consistent. I mean, this D line for Clemson, and we'll get into some other players later as well. But like you said, they're going to be a contender this year. Penn State's going to be a contender. Many other teams, obviously, with the playoff format. But Parker's going to be an enormous part of it. He does both sides, pass rush and run defender. I think he's one of the quintessential edges for this class, and somebody that's going to be a lock for top 10. As long as he doesn't get worse somehow. I think if he stays as he is, he would be in the top 10 conversation for this class.
Yeah, we've seen that with Clemson defensive linemen before. I just really hope it doesn't happen. This kid's super long. One thing about this edge class upcoming is they're all big boys, like all like 260 plus. And it's really, really encouraging for them to be, most of them that we're looking at are the sophomores that have been super productive going into their junior seasons. There certainly will be some risers, of course, but Parker, man, like, he doesn't have the best toolbox right now, but it doesn't matter. The motor, the length, and the ability to just wreck a pocket is all there. I think he probably would have been a first-round pick if he were eligible last year. I feel like he's going to be a top 5 to 10 player.
Yeah. And that's good to have here. I mean, and Randy hits out of the head. I like this group of guys has so much production finally that it's like, hey, we're not just going on intangibles, right? Like think about the Danny Dennis Sutton stuff from last year that we talked about. Like, yeah, he's got tools, he's there, but hey, we got to see him produce. Like at least we have that production that we can kind of mention here. And speaking of production, 3rd pick, New York Giants. Where you go with him, Christian?
Yeah, Caleb Downs, give me the best player in this class, safety out of Ohio State. I do want to be better about saying, where these players play now that we're back to square one. As we were going through the 2025 class, we got so comfortable just saying the player name. Caleb Downs, you should know his name. If you're a college football fan, you definitely know his name. If you're just an NFL draft fan and haven't gotten into the 2026 class, this is the player you should start with. This is some of the best safety tape I've ever seen, including Kyle Hamilton. I think when all is said and done, there's a chance that Caleb Downs is my number 1 safety of all time. Right now, there were some, like, I don't want to say he had bad production. He had really good production. He was all over the field. Some of the ball production just wasn't there as far as interceptions go, but that's because they used him in such creative ways. They used him in the box to stop the run. They used him as a free safety over the middle, as a single high safety. I know people are going to get hung up on the position, and I totally understand that, because safety isn't a huge, premium position at the top of the class, but it's the Ashton Genty argument for me now, where it's like, yeah, I don't know how far he's going to get down the board, though, because this kid is one of the best football players I've seen in the last few years.
I mean, it was pretty much argued consistently after the playoffs that Ohio State had the best player on offense and defense last year. And it was no mistake. Caleb Downs was an impact in every play, all the big moments. It's the reason they have the chance to do the strip fumble against Texas, because of just phenomenal intelligence and able to dissect the play and explode out, trying to make the play. And he did that constantly. Like Christian said, it's some of the best safety tape, if not the best safety tape we've seen. As long as it continues under a new DC this year, that's my concern as well, if only how he's being used. But I mean, anyone with the brain is going to use him in his best capacity, because he's clearly the best player on that defense. And he should be able to nail himself all the way up here in the top 5. I do think he's the best player in this draft right now. And like you said, with Ashton Genty, it's the whole year where, like, he could go 2, 3, ends up at 6, just because of positional flexibility and, value. So hopefully he stays up here, because he deserves it.
I don't think we see the drop like we saw with Kyle Hamilton with Downs, because I think Downs is a much better athlete. And I think that, and with Downs, I mean, if you want to be real, he can play free safety. He can play slot corner. He can play in the box. That dude's going to play.
He can play linebacker.
He could play linebacker. He is a dynamic punt returner. Dude is just otherworldly from a special teams perspective too. Like, you get this kid and you just put him on the field and you say, go. Like, let's just go. He's Travis Hunter to an extent. Like, he's the defensive Travis Hunter, where, like, he can make plays on special teams to do that. Yeah, he's not a receiver, but his defense is going to be, I mean, he's just that special of an athlete. Like, he's a Travis Hunter level athlete. And that's incredible to have. And I hate that he plays for the Buckeyes. Like, it just absolutely sucks. I hate watching that and having to see that. All right. The Jets pick 4. So, unfortunately, in this scenario, Justin Fields did not work out for the New York Jets. They take a quarterback. Randy, who did they take?
Yeah, I got trapped here to keep taking the quarterbacks, it felt like. But as I argue with Christian, he just went over in our group chat, just because they're picking here at 4, that means Fields doesn't work out, so they have to go quarterback. New regime. You tried it with your guy. Let's get a guy in here that is a little bit different than Fields. Obviously, he's not going to have that mobility, escapability of Fields, so maybe Sellers fits more of what they're trying to build. But again, if you're picking 4, everything went wrong. So, I do think they're a good enough team that should be at 4. So if they do pick at 4, I think you reset and try and figure it out. Cade Klubnik, we're going to keep saying this. Clemson is very, very good, and he's definitely not the best player on this team, I don't think, as of right now. But he makes all the plays you want. He's going to move the ball. He's highly, highly talented, coming out of high school, obviously a high recruit, and he's just going to be consistent and accurate. I do want to see a little bit more big-time throws and kind of throwing your guys open and winning more. But with this receiving room, I just don't see how he can't be successful. And I think he's going to probably be propped up by all that talent around him a bit as well. But I do think he's talented enough to go in the first round right now, and he should have another good year. I just want to see a little bit better, like, pass rating, a little bit more accuracy, a little bit bigger plays. But everything's around him to do that. So I think he's going to be able to show up this year and really be a Heisman contender as more of just a field general pocket passer.
Yeah, I know Kevin likes Klubnik probably more than both of us, if I had to guess. My main thing with Klubnik is there's some times where, like, there are a lot of easy throws. Let me be clear. Clemson,
what's a Riley offense? I mean,
right. And Clemson made it very easy for him. The interesting part, though, is, like, I think he was on the verge of being benched after that Georgia game last year, because they made some comments wasn't Georgia week 1 last year? Am I
they got
losing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they made some comments, and Cade Klubnik even came back and was like, it was like a nonchalant response. And then the dude went on a tear after that. But my main thing is some of the easy throws, even like the placement's just a little bit off. And I get concerned because we talked about a pre-show, but it reminds me of Carson Beck in 2023. And so I'm worried that we could see a bit of a fall off here once teams have film, but it's really tough. I mean, it's the Ohio State situation, right? Like it's at least Will Howard esque type of play this year where the Clemson wide receivers should be winning against every single team. So I think that's where Carson Beck failed last year is he didn't have that. He didn't have Brock Bowers anymore. So yeah, Klubnik's an interesting one for me. I'm not sold on any of these quarterbacks outside of Allar, which we talked about, but I just don't. A lot of them have tools, and there's certainly some promise. And I know teams, someone will step ahead of the rest of the group, I think, and be QB2. It's just they're all kind of clustered together for me right now.
This is the Klubnik. Everybody out there, I wrote this piece on him. I ran stuff on all the quarterbacks, but this is the main two things that I took from him. And I don't want Christian to disparage my name out there that I love Klubnik like he's my 101. I liked kind of what I saw from the tape perspective. So his passing depth, so like his development of his deep ball has really been better. And when you're looking at the PFF numbers, his deep balls last year, 20 plus yards, he was 35 for 78, but he had 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, and a 3.5 passer rating, or PFF grade, excuse me. That to me, and even medium was even better, 91 PFF grade. He looked better from a completion percentage. Like he is not afraid to push the ball down the field. Like his deep ball is good. Now here's where he makes me nervous. Decision under pressure. So when he got blitzed last year, PFF grade, passing grade was 71.1. He didn't have any interceptions, but he had 15 touchdowns, but his completion percentage is like in the 50%. So he struggles sometimes post snap reads and that defensive pressure. Like that is his main two things that when you watch him, you really got to be like, okay, you got to get the ball out quicker. You need to understand where that defense is going to be, that post-snap reads, and even defensive processing to a degree, because that's where his turnover-worthy plays come. Like, that is where it happens. But the one thing he does extremely well, he's pretty damn athletic. Like, he's sneaky athletic. I hate to say that already about a white quarterback, but here we are. And outside, when he gets outside and throws on the run, that's where a lot of those deep balls that you see the progression, like he does that very well too. So like he's got good nuances to a game, and his sophomore year he was not good. Last year he struggled against Georgia early, but he's shown some development, right? And that's the tough part with Cade. It's just, there's things that you really like about his tape, and then there's things that you're like, hey, you got to get better. But his offense is going to limit him to that ability. The Riley's offense is driving me crazy. USC, Clemson, wherever you want to, do it, because that offense is going to baby him and it's going to hide his deficiencies a ton. And they're going to look to get the ball out quicker, quick passes, those type of things. And that worries me for the NFL side because, okay, will he be able to kind of develop into that? That's the biggest concern I have for him.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about another quarterback at 5. I took for the New Orleans Saints, obviously the Tyler Shuck experiments or Spencer Rattler experiment or who's the
Jake
other
Hanner?
guy? Yeah.
Oh,
I should
come
know
on.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
come on,
you
Fresno
should.
State. Oh man, I just going to hell. I took Lenore Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina. And really, the thing with Lenoris is he has immense upside of any quarterback in this class, just from an athletic perspective. Now, is he ready to play in the NFL? No, he's not a top 5 pick right now. Like I think that, even though I drafted him there, it's more of a ceiling play, upside play. Last year, he only threw for 2,000 yards, a little over 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 receptions. He had 19 turnover-worthy plays. Like from a passing standpoint, not amazing, but from a rushing standpoint and from just a athleticism, pure arm talent, strength standpoint, the dude's got it. And we've seen guys like this go, Anthony Richardson, those type of things. And I would argue that he's probably better a passer than Anthony Richardson was at this part, and he's played more, and he's going to have more starts under his belt there. Processing too is a big plus for me for Sellers. The big things is, man, he's got a lot of confidence in that arm, buddy. And sometimes he throws those things all over the place. And that's just youth. That's where that comes from. He plays way too fast under pressure. As soon as he gets pressured, it's like he's just gone. Like he's going to go and run there. So he's got to work on that. But I love his upside. And if the Saints need a quarterback, I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. Like I said, all these guys are kind of grouped together. I think Sellers is the one with the most athletic upside and maybe the most exciting to track this year, I would say, because South Carolina does have a good assortment of skill position players. And I think the South Carolina team is going to be actually very good this year. And there were certainly flashes throughout his 2024 season. But man, some of the passing performances against the good defenses were like, that's pretty unfortunate, and I think that's where we're gonna have to see him take major steps. I hate to do this, but like he has a better structure mechanically than Jalen Milroe did. But everyone was super excited about Jalen Milroe, and turns into a day 2 pick. I think Sellers would be smarter and go back to school if that were the case, like Jalen Milroe should have. But we've seen one season of semi-good film, and so I do think I'd rather have him than Shuck. So let's do it. Let's bring him to New Orleans.
Hey, one season of semi-good film can get you top 5 of the NFL draft, and we've seen that time and time and again.
Trayvon Walker.
Yes, Anthony Richardson, and like Evan said, he's got more tape on him, so he's learning more. He's able to process more at this point. But it's the same things. It's ball security and accuracy, which are same stuff. So again, we have to see a lot more. But he's in the SEC. He's going to have primetime games. He's going to have every opportunity to show out. And this, to me, this says he played well enough.
Mm-hmm. To me, this is like he beat Clemson again, and now he's got it back almost in the playoffs again. Like this kid is took that next step. All right, at 6, Carolina Panthers are on the clock. Christian, where do you go?
Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah. This kid is better than all the tackles in last year's class. Just point blank. If he gets any better, I just said it about Caleb Downs, but there's a chance that Fano is going to be up there as my highest graded offensive tackle since we've been doing this. This kid is so sound. He's powerful. He has great movement skills. He's great in pass protection. He's an elite run blocker. Man, we'll talk about a lot of teams. This Utah offensive unit is going to be significantly better than they were last year. Probably because they don't have a 75-year-old quarterback back there anymore, or trying to be back there. But man, to get a Taylor Moton replacement like this at pick 6, like this is a great value. I think this kid should have been a top 3 pick. And honestly, if I had to do this over again, I might take him to the Giants and just roll with it. But Panthers just luck out here and get one of the best players in this class. Kid rocks. Love him.
Yeah, he would have easily been he'd be Patriot right now. No questions asked. If he was able to come out, he was the best run blocker in the country. And there's no question. Obviously, I do think, like you said, he's a good pass protector. There's stuff to improve there, but we'll see it this year. I'm very, very confident in that we'll see a big time jump. We have, I'd say 3, top 10 caliber tackles in this class, and it's just where they fall. And again, we've seen classes like this going into it where only one of those has made it out, like Joe Alt, and the other ones dropped down. Or we've seen 3 more pop up, and now we have 7 first-round offensive tackles. And I think we have that chance this year, but I'm pretty confident these 3 that we'll get to here quick are going to be flying off the board.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on the head with his run blocking, right? Like I think his PFF 93.6 run blocking grade, and they talked about just what he can do on the field. Like, I mean, he's special. Utah, we have some Utah truthers in our Discord. They'll love the fact that we're talking about Utah so much there. All right, the Raiders pick at 7. So I don't know if that Geno Smith experience is working out. I don't. We'll see how that goes. But we did not take a quarterback here. Randy, who did you pick for your Raiders?
You can't. You committed. Now we're screwed. No, I mean, listen, we've seen many years where, I mean, look this last year where all the top like 7 picks were really like 4 or 5 wins, nothing great. But we've seen the 7th pick be a 7-win team. So now that we're down here, it's nothing crazy. I'm definitely just making myself.
Listen to you. What are you talking about right now?
What
the hell's going on?
All right.
All right. So in this imaginary scenario, the Raiders have won 12. Yeah, the Raiders have won 7 games. All right, Randy, who are you picking at 7 with your 7-win Raiders?
Yes, I went with Peter Woods. I think he's the second best defensive lineman of this class, at least as of now. Again, super early. But you have a top-end edge rusher in Max Crosby, you have a top-end D tackle in Christian Wilkins, and not really much on the other side with edge except rotational guys that did show flashes and I hope, stand out. But the D tackle next to Wilkins could use something and be the guy for the future as Wilkins is getting up there. So Peter Woods hops in here. One of the best D tackles, if not the best D tackle in the country 2 years ago, moved him off to the edge because he was so dominant in the pass rush on the interior. It didn't really work out well out there. I do think it's a 3-4 edge. He could do pretty good things, but he ended up being more Brian Breesy out there than what he was interiorly, which he was very, very dominant. I think he gets back to that this year. He's very good against the run, but to give you like a 15% win rate 2 years ago on the interior, 6'3", 315. I think that's something that just pairs really well with Wilkins. You'd have 2 really good interior run defenders as well as good pass rush, so they could be 3-down D tackles with Max Crosby as you continue to figure out that other edge rush position next to him. But again, you kind of figured out you spent a lot of capital on the offense this year, and you spent some veteran money and replaced a lot of players on defense. Now you get back to paying guys on the defense with the top 10 pick.
Yeah, it's super important to note that Tom Allen is taking over the Clemson defense too, so he's not going to do stupid things, and so I think we're just going to see a traditional plug Peter Woods in the middle and stop getting cute with it. Like you already have some really good edge rushers. We already took one, so. This Clemson defense is going to be legit. There's linebackers and corners and safeties and then guys on the other side of the ball. So I think Woods is going to have an opportunity to really thrive this year. He is my number 4 player on my board right now. I think he's a stud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get him here is a steal. I think he can be an absolute stud there up front. And that's a great pick for the Raiders, what they need, right? I mean, that's kind of, where they're going. That's it. All right, Colts are on the board at 8. So I got the Indianapolis Colts here. That tells you a lot probably about how their season went. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, whatever. Quarterback may be in play here. Who knows? But, what I did is I just took the offensive tackle. Francis Maui Noah, I get that right. We're still trying to predict how to say that, but it's pretty close. He's been playing at the starting right tackle for the Hurricanes since his true freshman season. So that guy, I mean, that was like one of the first NIL battles. And he went to Miami. They've been paying him a lot of money since he's been there. Basically, when you look at last year, 534 pass blocking snaps, according to PFF, and only allowed 2 combined sacks or hits. Now, that number, that's a tough number. Sometimes, I don't know if PFF's completely true on that, but it does show kind of just how he's been at that right tackle spot. And he was the only tackle with 2 or fewer knockdowns allowed in 500 pass blocking snaps. So that is something. Like, he does do that well from that right tackle spot. So the question is always going to be, is he a left tackle? Is he a right tackle? This is that one that we're going to probably be talking about a little bit. Run blocking grade was okay, over 70, so he does that really well. He needs some refinement. He's not like a Spencer. Like, that's not who he is, but he can definitely develop there. So, I take him here with the Colts. They love guys like this. I think they can shore up their offensive line if they need it, and is more just like a floor play here for them. Randy, what's your opinion on our guy Francis?
I think you kind of hit it on the head there with we're going to be questioning if he is going to switch over and play well. Isn't he moving to left this year? I thought I saw that.
He's supposed to be, yeah.
So hopefully we have those questions answered, and then we're going into this as, he's the most versatile of all of them, and, that fun part. But I do think he showed a lot of upside. Again, it's kind of the opposite of what we already talked about with Fano. It's, a guy that showed great promise and pretty dominant in the pass game. It needs to improve the run game a little bit to get to that next level. Whereas, obviously, Fanu is great in the run game. It just needs to tick up a little bit in the pass game to be that complete guy. I think, again, there's going to be 3 guys competing this year, and there should be no reason why we want Mawanoa is it we're going to be destroying that for 3 months. It shouldn't be in that, contention. And I think if he has a good year this year, the flexibility will make him in contention for that first, because there's going to be teams like the Colts who could maybe decide he's better at right tackle, or I was considering him with the Raiders. It just kind of depends on how they feel with their tackle situation. But say the Patriots are picking at 8, they'd probably put him at right tackle and just say, Will Campbell is good enough, screw it. So that versatility could be huge for him, and I do think he's going to stand out this year and really be improved, because it's going to be hard for them not to be improved in the run game. I know they didn't really have great situations last year, but they were relying super hard on Campbell Ward just to sit back there and deal. They're not going to have that this year. They're going to have to be a more balanced team, and I think he's going to be a vital part of that.
Yeah. I'm going to save my comments on Maui for another episode. I think once we get to summer scouting, because I'm just not I'm not as high on him right now. I want to watch more film before I
you could give early comment. Again, I know our opinions are going to change. There's no way they're going to stay the same. Even Christian, like TJ Parker, who we really like. I agree with Christian, not a big toolbox right now. We said the same thing about, Abdul Carter last year going into it. So, and he ended up getting all those little moves figured out.
Yeah. What Christian means by that is he doesn't like him, and he's not going to like him after he watches film either, because I know
because he's not going to run.
He's not doing that. All right.
What? Yeah. I was just going to say, we'll talk about footwork, and we're going to talk about some more footwork here at number 9 with the Patriots, because I'm taking King Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Big boy, one of the bigger boys that we will talk about, the biggest boy that we will talk about, listed at 6'7", 369 last year is what we got. Just an absurd size for an offensive tackle. He was good last year. Certainly some room for improvement. I think the feet are a little bit slow sometimes, which you can understand with a guy who's, upward almost 400 pounds because of his size, but man, is he athletic. He can get on the move. He can just throw dudes. I've got a couple clips on Blue Sky where it's just him taking a guy with one hand and just throwing him like 3 yards to his left. Just an incredibly powerful player that I think he'll certainly need to clean some stuff up, but this is one of those guys where we're just going to bet on the traits and assume that he does take those steps and become a top 10 pick. Randy was like, ooh, that sucks when I picked him, because that means that Will Campbell didn't work out at left tackle. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think they would just say, okay, Will Campbell can move over to right tackle, or we can just try Keaton Proctor over there. I know we talk about how that's just not a thing that is super easy for everyone, but I think especially Campbell could do something like that. So we're going to shore up the offensive tackle positions for Drake May and get the 6'7" guy to protect for him on the left side.
Yeah, that's not why I was mad. I was mad because you took him before I could take it with the next.
I
know. No, I mean, consistency is his biggest thing. Obviously everyone watched him play against the best teams, Georgia, probably the South Carolina games, and he was dominant in those games, which is, a great thing for him. But maybe it's with the running quarterback. There's a lot of consistency things that I want to see cleaned up. And again, like you said, foot speed is one of the biggest things. And, overextending hand placement with him, all are very reasonable with a monster of a human that he is. It's just something he has to clean up to be the top guy, which is why, again, Browns picking one probably didn't work out the quarterback, so I went quarterback, but he would have been in contention, I think, with all three of these tackles at number one if the quarterback wasn't the reason the Browns were picking one.
Is he too big? You guys think he's too big?
He could be. I mean, it's the same. It's kind of the same things. Like, I mean, Evan Neal was really like measurably really big. It hasn't really worked out. DeJuan Jones, kind of the same thing. The athleticism is there, but there's a lot of overextending and just technique stuff that needs to be different. And I don't know if it's coaching someone that enormous. It's hard to like change up how you have to teach it for someone that big or something because it's not been consistently good.
Well, yeah. And when you're that big, the whole like technique is completely different because you can't latch onto people with your arms up like this if you're watching on the podcast, and obviously you wouldn't be looking like this like a fucking idiot, but you have to come from underneath a lot of times, and so that makes it more challenging, and it puts you off balance more often. But I need to do more of that, actually. Just do technique on the video, so people will come watch the video.
Great piece here.
I don't know what
start off. You start off with just saying, "Ooh, he's such a big boy," and then you finish it off with that. And
you finish it off with like a tiger claw. Like I don't even know what it was. It was like
I can't put my hands on the screen.
Something in there.
Kung Fu Panda here in the house today. All right, at 10, Cleveland is on the clock again. This is the Jacksonville pick. So at 10, they got this pick for Travis Hunter. So who are they getting for Travis Hunter, Randy? Who do you like here?
Yeah, so I went on one of the three offensive tackles here. The Browns are in a weird spot where both tackle positions are kind of question marks. And then besides that, the interior is getting older. Contract situations are up in the air. You already had your probably best offensive lineman contemplating retirement this last year. So that was my major focus, and then they were all gone. So instead of reaching, I went with Ruben Bain Jr., the edge from Miami. Just, again, it's the same thing we just talked about this whole last year. Did they go Travis Hunter? Did they go Abdul Carter? Take the edge opposite Myles Garrett? They said neither. So with that, we're just going to do that here. And Ruben Bain made a huge jump this last year. I really like what he was doing. Again, I think he's going to be contention up here. He gets the pressure rates that we want. He's a size, 6'3", 275. He does good in the run defense. I just think he's a first-round caliber guy. And at this point, we're just seeing who's going to make the upside and take some big steps this next year. And again, we're talking a lot of Miami players. I think they have a shot to, again, have a lot of national spotlight, and Bain's going to be able to capitalize on that.
Bain has 73 pressures since 2023, and so he's a top 4 power 4 edge guy coming in there.
Wow, he missed some time last year, right?
Yeah,
like he only played in 9 games, I think.
Yeah.
And one was the bowl game.
17% pass run rate. I mean, it's really good.
And he can line up pretty much anywhere in that defensive line too. Like he's got the size and the frame to do it. Like, and that's a good fit for the Browns. Like that's kind of what they need on that. Imagine them with that defensive line up front. And if Garrett's still there, I mean that. If they could just figure out that quarterback position, they got a hell of a spot.
Drew Allar, and we have 6 backups behind him, so it's fine.
That's right. All right. We at 11 now. So the Rams are on the clock here. I'm surprised the Rams are. Oh wait, this is the Atlanta pick, isn't it? Because Atlanta traded. Yeah. Good job, Atlanta. I'm so glad that I hope that works out for you, buddies. So the Rams get the Atlanta pick. They're top 11 here. So this was a hard pick for me with the Rams because it's so hard to know what they're going to do with Stafford, what's going to happen in terms of like what is that position. But I took basically the best player on the board in May, Jermod McCoy from Tennessee, the cornerback out here. When you're looking at him, he's the favorite, I guess, right now in some circles out to be QB1. He transferred from Oregon State, and he looked good there. He had an 89.6 coverage grade last year, basically second among returning Power 4 corners. So that's what you like to see. Good ball skills when you watch him play. Very, very good athleticism. I think he might be one of the more athletic corners in the class, so that's something that you like there. But he is coming off that torn ACL, so there is he's got the injury. So it's again the Siobhan Revel stuff. Like, all right, like he does have the athleticism, but towards ACL, and it was in January, I'm pretty sure. So who knows what's going to happen in terms of his season. But I just took McCoy here, just basically play the board.
Yeah, from what I've seen, just good ball skills, good coverage, kind of in both. Obviously, you would have seen more this year. And he's going to be playing for a team that's going to be putting up points because Tennessee always does. So he's going to be on the field a lot. So we'll see a lot.
They will.
Yeah.
Jake Merklinger, is that their quarterback now? Think so?
It don't matter.
Yeah.
Insert quarterback here, and they put up 30 points a game until it matters.
Yeah, allegedly that's why Nico left, because of the scheme. But McCoy is my number 2 player right now behind Downs. I think he's an absolute stud. The only thing that gives me pause on that is Jeremiah Smith put him through the ringer. But it doesn't matter because Jeremiah Smith puts everyone through the ringer. He's the best wide receiver.
Well, not everybody, sir. Let's be clear here. He did not play very well against Michigan. So let's just.
Did he not play well, or did Will Howard not play well?
Yeah, probably a bit of both. Chip Kelly
also didn't play really well. It was the beat up offensive line. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that too.
Lord, that was a mismatch and a half.
Sorry for digressing a little bit. I just had to point out that Michigan hasn't lost to Ohio State in 2,000 days. Just thought people should know.
That's a lot of days. One note on McCoy, though, they've had the confidence to leave him in single coverage on an island against Jeremiah Smith, which I think speaks to how talented he is and how well he played up to that point. Good receivers are going to be good corners in most situations. Corners are always at a disadvantage, so I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into that, but I do want to see some of those things improve. Jeremiah Smith had him on his heels quite a bit in that game. So,
all right, 12, Seattle. Where are we going with Seattle here?
I don't know. I don't know where we're going, but I'm taking Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. We're going to talk about some wide receivers as we get through this, but not for a few. We're talking about probably a few more than we should be because this is the wide receiver class that I think could have a ton of risers or could just be one of the worst that we've seen in a long time. Jordan Tyson, I'm not even sold on him, really. I think he's a really good player that has a lot of really good qualities. I think he gets open tremendously. I think he's a really good athlete. I think he's awesome after the catch. I think he's got excellent hands. He's also been as injured as anyone in college football. He's had multiple knee injuries. I'm concerned that it's going to be a Will Johnson-esque knee when they get in there for the medicals. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of this wide receiver class outside of I think Tyson was absolutely phenomenal last year, and I hope to see him continue that with Sam Leavitt. I don't know if the Seahawks think that they have the receivers that they need now that they got Torrey Horton and Ricky White and they signed Cooper Kupp, but they don't have the receivers that they need. So I want Jordan Tyson here.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 6 weeks, he was probably the best receiver, statistically in college. Definitely not the best, but I mean, he was rivaling Ted McMillan down the stretch, and then obviously wasn't able to play the Big 12 or the playoffs. So that's going to be huge for him. That would have been his kind of, night and moment there. But I mean, he did everything great. And again, of the receivers in this class, without any health concerns, I think he'd be the receiver I'm betting on to stand out this year.
So here's my hot take for you boys, because we haven't actually done this. So I'm actually excited to share it with you guys. I don't have any first round grade on any wide receiver in this class. So I don't think I just don't.
He's the only one that I think is there currently.
Yeah, currently. Let me say that. There are definitely places where some of these guys will break out. I'm sure there will be. Tyson, for me, the big question for me is his injury history, right? Like that's a thing. I mean, in Colorado, he was fine. And in last year, I was going to say he was good. Like there was opportunities there. My big thing with him is injuries. I think that's something teams are going to look at and say, hey, what is that looking like moving forward here? And he's fine. I have a hard time with this wide receiver class. Like we put too many in here. I think we put 5 maybe or 4, but like I have a hard time looking at it saying, like this guy's a first round grade. And that's crazy right now in May, because I mean, the wide receiver classes we've had the last few years, we've definitely been like just spoiled a little bit.
Well, even last year at this time, we knew Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, and Emeka Ibuka were going to be top 50. Yeah, we're going to be at least top 50 picks, right? Like we even said Emeka probably, he won't be viewed as highly, or we'll have to see what he does this year. But that was 3. And we were pretty sure of that. And all 3 made it in. This year, I'm with you, man. Like there's some guys that are on the brink for sure, but it's a tough class. It's a tough class for sure.
I'd agree. And I mean, for what it's worth, I thought Ibuka was going to be top 50 2 years ago. So it's probably not fair with that.
That's true.
I do agree, though. There's not really we picked the 5. I think there's 5 or 6 that have a chance, and we'll see who shakes out. I wouldn't be shocked if this is one of the drafts where we don't get a receiver into the 20s at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. And then next year we're gonna get like 7 in the first 18. No, I'm just kidding, but it's pretty good. Next year is insane. So
next year's one of the top 2. So
so
maybe
we'll get
1.
to that one. Yeah. All right, Randy, explain your damn self. Dallas Cowboys are at 13 here. Tell me where you go with the Dallas Cowboys.
Listen, we just got to restart the cycle. That's what I texted you in the group chat. We're restarting the cycle all over again. Dallas at pick 12 or 13, picking the best running back in the class. We're calling it a day. But Jeremiah Love, for me, as of coming into this, is in contention for the best running back. I think there's a couple guys in Penn State and some other teams that are going to be fighting for this. But I love what I saw from him last year. He was the best player on this team, I think, and he was leading them in all those games. I just think he's the best back, and I think he got great yards as a carry, great missed tackle rates. I think he's good out of the backfield. He's a complete back. The Cowboys are refusing to draft running backs highly, and that's fair. But, again, if you're picking here, again, after trading for George Pickens, you have the 2 receivers now. You have 16 tight ends. You drafted first-round offensive linemen the last, 3 years before this. Now you're reinvesting in the running back position is kind of how I'm viewing it. There's some other shots at defense, but we're going to go over it as well the rest of this class. It's just upsides right now, and I'd rather bet on somebody that I know is a good talent right now at this pick.
Yeah. That's fair. I was just messing with you. I don't think it's a bad pick. I just hate that we're in this perpetual cycle of drafting running back
until you draft one.
Question.
You're the new Falcons with edges.
Ugh.
That's true. You said that you had a take about Jeremiah Love in the Discord that I haven't stopped thinking about. This was like 2 months ago. What's your take on Jeremiah Love? Like, do you like him?
So I just talked about this on the other Devy show. So here's what Jeremiah. The one thing I struggle with Jeremiah is I don't necessarily think he's the best running back on Notre Dame's roster. And I think that Aeneas Williams, Jadarian Price are going to really take some volume away from him this year. They were banged up last year, and Love got a lot of that, but then he broke down a little bit, right? Like 175 carries, and he did not finish the year out. So my biggest red flag and my biggest question mark about Love, I think he is a very talented player. But I don't know if he's a first round top 15 pick. I don't know if I see Genty. I don't know if I see that Omar and Hampton type level of maybe, and Hampton didn't go top 15, but my thing with Love right now is I look him as a round 2 guy, but I don't know, like, I don't think you can really say he is the most talented guy on that running back room, like by a large margin, which that running back room is legitimate. Like that running back room, Aeneas Williams and Jadarian Price are very, very good from what we've seen there. Even Kedron Young, if you guys don't know who he is, he was a freshman last year. He's going to be a sophomore this year. And so my thing with Love is I think he's going to lose some volume this year. And I think he's got to be efficient. And you love the yards per carry. You love all the things that he was able to do. I just don't I question whether he is really the running back one in the class. Like I could see him being as low as running back 4.
Okay. You're a hater. I got it. No, I'm with you on. I think Jadarian Price
He's good. He's really good.
Fantastic back. This to me is the Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen situation though, where like I think because Love is going to be, I think Love's going to test out of this world. I think he's incredibly fast. I think he's incredibly powerful, and so I think we're going to see it in the explosive. I think he's bursting. I think I think he takes a minute to really get up to his top speed. So maybe he doesn't run a 40 throughout his process, but I think the explosives are going to be incredible. And so I think we're going to see a really high relative athletic score that's going to boost him up. Maybe the same way Omarion Hampton was a top 50 pick, and then he was a 1st-round pick after the combine. And that's kind of where I see it. And I see similar things with the Penn State group where it's like Katron Allen's not, his nickname's Fat Man. He's not going to test well, but he's a really talented running back. I think you're right, though. I think there will be a pretty significant share of carries that don't go to Jeremiah Love. So I think that's fair. Hater.
But if the quarterback isn't running as much, that adds touches. So
let me just say this. The guy that I think could be a dark horse running back 1, I don't even think we took him in this 1st round. So
running back 1?
Yeah, we did not.
Darius Taylor?
No, we took Darius. I made sure of it. But no, Jonah Coleman. I think Jonah Coleman from Washington, like, is
I'm in on that.
People need to talk about a little bit too. All right, 14. The Miami Dolphins kind of picking in the same spot as they Tua probably missed 6 games. Quinn Ewers came in there through 27 interceptions, dropped him down a little bit, and now they're picking it 14 here. So I took an edge. Danny Dennis Sutton, out of Penn State, a guy that we've talked about on this show. I think he could take a next step for Penn State this year. Definitely want to see that production. I think we've seen the tools. We've seen that kind of play out, and he played with Abdul Carter, so there's definitely a place for him to kind of step up there. When you're looking at him, like, he had 75 pressures last year, and that was only behind TJ Parker, so the pressures are going to be there. He gets after the quarterback, 5-star recruit, that type of guy there. Miami could use him on the defensive side. Miami's one of the worst built teams in the NFL. I will reiterate that. They're going to probably need a wide receiver. They're going to, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. Like, that team is a mess, so I'll just take the best edge on the board.
Yeah, man. The only reason I think this is one of the wildest picks is their corner room is so bad that you could have went corner here, but if you're going to pick an edge, I'm fine with it being Danny Dennis Sutton. I know Christian's a bigger fan than I am, but like you said, the only reason people probably don't care about it as much is because of who was across from him. I think that changes this year. I think he's dominant, and he gives you a little bit more in the run game. I think he's a complete edge, kind of like we talked about TJ Parker. I think he's going to be very, very, very valuable. I don't know where he's going to end up on this because I don't think he's going to have those testing and everything where he's shooting up the boards, but he's going to be kind of like the Jared Verse where it's like, okay, I mean, he's going to go in the middle to late of the first and be, just solid the whole time.
Yeah, I had to rewatch his film just because I saw some hate out there, and I was like, man, maybe I'm wrong. I like to second guess myself. I don't think I was. I think he's good. I think he's a really good player. So I think it's a good pick. I think this middle range is about his ceiling for me. So
yeah. All right. Well, all right. Let's jump over to the Cardinals here. What are we doing here, Christian?
So this is me betting on a player taking a leap. And so I'm taking Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver from USC. And people are going to be like, I haven't seen him in any 1st-round mocks, including yours. And I will say I hadn't watched him yet when I wrote my mock. So I probably would have put him in my mock because I think – so there's some hype for his teammate at USC and Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane is 6'4", 195. He's a prototypical NFL-sized wide receiver. Mekhi Lemon is not. He's 5'11", 190, and I think 190 might be a stretch. He's a thin dude. However, he is tough. He is a tough player. He reminds me very much so of Josh Downs in that he will go across the middle and have some hands catches, bounce off a contact, and be able to generate yards after the catch. I think he is one of the best yards after the catch players in this class. I think he's incredibly fast, incredibly dynamic, and we really saw him take a leap last year. His yards per route run up over 3. It's actually Jordan Tyson was 3.04. Mekhi Lemon was 3.03. So just a really effective player when he was running routes on the field. His contested catch for a player his size, you'd normally see that in like the 25 to 35 range is what I would say on average. His was up in the like 45, 46 actually percent contested catch rate. So I don't have as many questions about his size as I thought I was going to when I went into the film. And I think Arizona needs some weapons actually. I think they need to continue building. They need a quarterback first. We've talked about it, but like they really just negated the wide receiver position this year. So I think going back to that, getting a player that complements Marvin Harrison Jr. really well too is something I was thinking about, but he's not a first round player yet. So I'll just throw that out there too.
Yeah, I think where I would push back the most on this is I do think, and again, you didn't even watch it before you did your mock. I've watched like one game. So I'll be fair that I need to see him a lot more, but I think he's a slot right now. I don't know if he's going to have that versatility outside for the NFL. And that's where I'd give you a lot of pushback. But then I look at the team you gave him to, and it's like, they think Greg Dortch is a good slot. Mekhi Lemon would run circles around him.
Yeah.
Not only that, like you said, he's impressive at the catch point, and he is better than every receiver on this team after the catch. So it makes sense for this team. I think that's kind of more of a fit than, maybe where he jumps to. But again, when you're competing with Jeremiah Smith and Tyson last year for, yards per route run and making the big plays, and you have somebody on the other side of the field from him that is a good receiver, I think he's going to have the opportunity to shine this year.
Yeah. It's that yards per route run number. It really, like, when I read it and I saw that he was only behind Jordan Tyson and Jeremiah Smith, I was like, oh, that's something. Mm-hmm. That's something to note there with that.
And from a slot that, like, when you're just looking at him, when you said downs, I was like, oh, yeah, that does fit, a little bit like trying to get in the ball early and out, maybe screens and make big plays. And then you compare that with that metric and you're like, oh, so he's not just the one trick. He actually does everything with the slot. And I definitely want to watch more because I want to see the route running from him because I have to assume it's better than what I've seen. I barely have seen it. So I do think he might, if these are all what's going to happen and he's a good route runner, I might be a bigger fan than Christian.
You probably will be. I would recommend everyone go watch the Notre Dame game. We talked about how Drew Allar couldn't throw to his wide receivers. Mekhi Lemon, 9 catches, 133 yards against Notre Dame, 90.1 offensive grade in that game. And boy, oh boy, PFF got that one right. One of the most impressive wide receiver tapes I watched this summer so far. It's not
all right. Steelers at 16. Do they get a quarterback, Randy? Where are you going with the Steelers?
Yes, I only pick quarterbacks in this freaking mock. So they go they just go Miami quarter. No, I'm just kidding. I want Garrett Nussmeier. I will say I think Sam Levitt has contention here as well, just to see. But I want to see some more from him. Nussmeier, a little bit bigger program, a little bit bigger pedigree, and he's done it long. I really like what he's done, but I do think he might be a product of the environment a bit. But when he sits there and he makes the big time throws for over 4,000 yards, and just makes plays, I do think that's something that a lot of teams will like. Again, Steelers, they're going to be picking here because they're going to be winning around 9 to 7 games with Aaron Rodgers likely at quarterback. If he's not at quarterback, they're going to be picking a lot earlier. But I do think Nussmeier gives them that closer to what they had in Big Ben, because I do know he is more of a gunslinger. He's not scared to throw it. That does get him in trouble a lot more than got Big Ben in trouble because he doesn't have that. I mean, Big Ben is obviously, kind of generational arm and just made a lot of big plays. But I think Nussmeier has that chance to get up to that next level. I don't know if he will, and that's why he's going here. But again, as long as the Steelers are doing what they're doing at quarterback, I'm going to be giving them an upside quarterback at 16 for sure. And Nussmeier at this point is the biggest upside on the board.
Yeah, the pick's fine for what the Steelers are. I mean, if they're middling again, they're gonna have to get a guy like this. I mean, this is what you deal with if you're picking in the 16 spot. The thing with Nuss, I know Todd McShay loves Nussmeier. I was listening to McShay's thing, and he's comparing to Baker Mayfield. I don't see that freaking comp at all. Like when I watch the tape, it's a pretty absurd take.
I don't know what comp I'd have right now, but Baker definitely wouldn't be it. But I don't.
Brock Purdy.
Probably. I mean, it's closer to Purdy.
Purdy in the NFL or Purdy in college?
Purdy in the NFL.
Purdy in the NFL.
Purdy in the NFL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, wrote a Ricky Pearsall article that everyone should go check out if you're listening to this and you haven't yet. I came away incredibly impressed with Brock Purdy. I thought he was really, really good last year, and I never thought I'd say that out loud. Just wanted to put that take out there.
Yeah. I mean,
he's putting it all together.
He is. And you know what? You can't hate. I mean, I can still hate on him, but you can't hate what he's been able to do because he's definitely improved. But that's where I see a Garrett being, because I don't see he has natural arm talent. He's got touch and he does those things, but he doesn't have Baker arm talent. Baker's arm talent is a whole nother level. And that's the thing. The thing with me is when I did all my breakdowns of these top quarterbacks that we've been talking about, the thing that really kind of, for me, the passing under pressure, pocket pressure, that needs work really bad. When that pocket collapses, Nuss gets just absolutely destroyed. His decision making is bad. He looks visibly uncomfortable against pressure. Deep ball is very inconsistent, where I don't see Baker being like that. I think Baker has one of the better deep balls when you watch him play. And I don't think there was any time, and I watched a lot of LSU. I don't know why I watched so much LSU last year. And even on the tape when I was watching it, he doesn't elevate the offense. He doesn't and they're going to have a loaded wide receiver room again. And they've had in there, I mean, Lacey and all, rest his soul and all the stuff that was going on last year. They had an elevated, wide receiver room there. I don't see it. And so I get really worried about Nuss. This is a fine spot for Nussmeier because 16 is fine, but I've seen him at 1, and I just don't see him at 1.
Yeah. I mean, this fits for me because what I've seen so far, the top end is kind of that. I guess probably where the Baker comp is that the run that Baker can get on is high like that. But I thought more Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum, the Vikings playoff run. That's what I'm seeing right now. A guy that's not scared to make the throw, doesn't have the best arm, but makes the plays within the system, and he can get you to that next level. It's just he's not going to carry the team.
The perfect Arthur Smith quarterback. It's perfect.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have Ryan Tannehill's arm, but he's kind of there.
Yeah. God. Also, love how we are the negative 2026 NFL mock draft. If you listen to any others, they're just raving about all these guys, how they're going to be superstars, and we're just we actually hate that player. That player actually sucks.
Well, I mean,
I've watched
them. So here's the thing. And those of you, if you've listening this far, we've won an hour with 16 picks, by the way. So that's how degenerate we are. But we've watched these dudes for years, and we've really done a lot of work on these guys too. So one thing I do think sets us apart a little bit, that we do have takes because we have watched these guys a lot. And so that's part of it. And maybe we are sometimes too pessimistic though, because we do fall in that trap of erring on the side of caution sometimes. And I can do that too. So I will say Nuss for sure is a big red flag for me, but I've missed on quarterbacks. We all have we've seen that. So it's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, that's part of it is we've watched these guys a lot, and that's where it gets into. All right. Hey, go ahead.
I'm of the belief that you should watch the players before you put takes out there, but not everyone.
You would imagine that's a pretty, yes. But we know how that works. We know how that works there. All right. Yeah. I had 17. I had the Minnesota Vikings. I just took, Keldrick Falk from Auburn, defensive tackle / edge, depending on what you're looking at. He started at Auburn's edge spot for first 2 seasons. He took a big step last year as a sophomore, 83.8 PFF grade. We saw that. I mean, he was very, very solid there. He's one of those guys that he's still improving as a pass rusher, but he had 9 sacks and 45 pressures last year. So that was pretty good for him there. Top 20 probably player right now in the class here. And I just took him from Minnesota. Sure up that defensive line, edge, whatever they need to do there.
I mean, they need it desperately too. They didn't have the picks to be able to really do that this year, but it's their biggest need, I think, right now.
His film against Alabama is just littered with explosiveness and everything you look for in your starting defensive tackle in the NFL. So good pick here. Good value pick, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, Christian, your Bears. How do you always get the Bears pick? I don't know how that works out.
I don't know, but I didn't like this one because I wanted Jeremiah Love. I thought
I was going to say he made the doc. Maybe it was that it, but I changed the order completely, so it wasn't that.
Yeah,
this was a reach too. This is the first reach of the first round that I have here for you.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, I took Mekhi Lemon 2 picks ago. I'm just full of reaches. Nicholas Singleton, running back from Penn State. I talked about him a little bit earlier, so I won't drone on, but I just think this kid's athleticism. We just watched Travion Henderson go from, oh my gosh, he can't play. Look, he can't break tackles to which, if you look at actually Travion Henderson and Nicholas Singleton's career arcs, they're the exact same. They're back. Singleton's back for his senior year. He's going to be leading a roster that is going to be focused on the run, but certainly have a lot of passing elements. And there's another back there that's going to take touches away from him. I think his athleticism and his ability to be a high-level receiver as well. And really, man, just throw on the film. This kid improved significantly last year. I think he reminds me of Travis Etienne, who I didn't really like all that much. But the NFL loves players like that. They can be that home run threat, can create explosives out of the rushing attack. Singleton is exactly that. So quite candidly, I think the Bears are going to be picking 32 and they'll take him there. So how about that? How about that?
So
no comments on that? Cool.
I'm just going to be a dick about everybody, I think. But the thing with Singleton is he did show he's a better ball catcher, like as a receiver. Like you did see that last year, and the last couple of years has been fine. He struggles between the tackles at times. Like I really think as a runner, he can struggle there, and like he really struggles as a freshman. This last year was better. His sophomore year was better too, but his last year, he definitely was better there too. But 4-year kid again. I mean, I know Travion Henderson is a good comp, but I don't think he's the level of athlete as Travion. So like that worries me as well. I don't think he's in that realm. Like I just don't. I don't think he's going to test as well as Travion. But I mean, this is fine. He's a perfect fit in the Bears offense. That's why you picked him. But I just worry. I'm a little down on the running back class. If you guys haven't noticed, like I'm not as high on this running back class as some.
Except for you do.
No, I still have question marks there. Yeah, I still have question marks there.
If you guys are watching on the video, we lost Randy. His headphones went out. So this is a good opportunity to talk about Randy's pick. He picked Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas, to the Houston Texans here. Solid pick, prototypical NFL linebacker. I think probably a better 3-down linebacker than we saw from Jihad Campbell this last year. I think Hill. I really had to watch a lot of film to feel comfortable with Hill. I don't know how Randy feels, but he made the pick, so I'm subbing in, and hopefully Randy comes back.
This is the YouTube experience out here. You get me and Christian in the flesh here. If you're on the podcast, we are zoomed in on Randy's spot here. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at Anthony Hill, I mean, that's just a value pick probably. I mean, he's a perfect D'Amico Ryans linebacker. So if that's kind of how they want to kind of utilize him, and he's versatile, they can move him around. Texas has a ton of pieces, man, on the defensive side. We'll get into Texas as we go throughout the offseason. I'm sure because they have all those guys in there. All right, let's talk about actually Randy's back now, so it's there. We try to do our best here with Anthony Hill Jr. Why'd you take him?
I mean, just a linebacker that's came in and dominated from when he's got there. He improved vastly in his run game last year, showed good pass coverage snaps, just needs to get full circle there. I just think I love his blitzing capability. He doesn't, obviously, it's through the middle, not necessarily around the edge, so we're not talking like Jalen Walker, but I do think the linebacking core, it feels like the Texans have paid the money and kind of taken shots, but I'm not sure anything's fully vested and made sense. They have a couple of guys that are in free agency next year. I think getting a guy like Anthony Hill, who could go even higher, even as a linebacker, but here at 19, I think is a good value for what his talent level is.
Yeah, that's a good pick there. All right, I took at number 20 Christian's favorite player out there, LT Overton. So he's a edge / defensive lineman from Alabama. He's kind of a tweener, so that may be a knock for him a little bit there. Wasn't the greatest at Texas A&M, kind of failed to live up to his hype there. He was a top 10 recruit there, but at Alabama last year, he kind of turned into a very solid edge guy. 18% pass rush win rate. God, I just, that's terrible. I cannot say that. It's my speech impediment. And when you're looking at that 81.7 run grade defensive grade, I mean, he was fine. I think the big thing for him is, he's sitting there at 285 pounds ish. And what is he? Is he an edge? Is he an interior defensive lineman? I think he can do both. He's got to probably improve on his pass rush. I mean, when you're thinking of what he can do against the run, it's good enough. I think he's got that there. He's got upside. I think the Broncos would like a guy like this. So I like Overton a little bit more than definitely Christian. I'm not sure what Randy's take is on him, but at 20, maybe a little too high. Maybe he is a second round day 2 kid still. I think that's where he was getting mocked at. But I'll take Overton and just hope that he develops this year.
Yeah, I mean, he was a day 2 guy if he went out this last year. I think he did what more edges should have done and went back.
Go back.
Because we just had a, incredible
a lot of guys fell.
class. Yeah. But people just kept going. I mean, some guys that were supposed to maybe go round 4 went round 6 because it was just, there's so many. Now we're going to take the other spots. I think Overton should be able to reap those benefits. We've seen that many times where a guy was, top 60 pick, top 50, somewhere in that second, but came back and just continued to do what he did, which was he was good against the run, good against the pass, best pass rusher on the team. Like, he got Lawson back and everything else in this defense. I think he should be able to improve his stock, and I think this fits. And I'd say the strength of the Broncos is the defensive line, and that whole defense probably maybe you go safety to improve that spot. But Overton, he's a little bit, like you said, we'll see where he measures out this year with his weight. He's a little bit of inside out kind of thing here. I think he gives a little bit more of something else for this Broncos D-line too.
Yeah. I'll save my take on him too.
All right. Tampa Bay, 21. Who are you going with, Christian?
21, I'm going AJ Harris, the cornerback out of Penn State. This is certainly a projection. I think his play was up and down last year. And really game to game, it was up and down. It was super inconsistent year. That said, in coverage, I thought he was electric. I thought he was an elite athlete out there. I thought he could play really in any system when I was watching him, which I think is a valuable thing to have. His zone coverage ability is probably the best in the class. I think Jerron McCoy is good in zone coverage, but I definitely think if I were picking just if you're running a heavy cover 3 scheme, I'm picking AJ Harris over him. I thought instinctually he was good. I think he could have been better. Physicality was there. There were times where bigger wide receivers could get off of him pretty easily, but this is me just projecting that this Penn State defense with who's Jim Knowles is now there as their defensive coordinator. I think we're going to see a step forward for a lot of these players. Jim Knowles developed guys tremendously at Ohio State. So I'm excited to see what they do with AJ Harris. I think AJ Harris could be drafted before this if he has a big season.
Yeah. I mean, AJ, that Knowles is a legitimate defensive coordinator. Like, he is one of the best out there. So he could definitely take that to the next step.
Does anyone know why did he leave Ohio State? Does he think he's going to be the head coach when James Franklin gets fired? Because that's kind of what I think. I
don't think he really liked the whole Ohio State experience. Kind of like what I mean, he got paid more at Penn State. I mean, that's always gonna play real. But remember when they lost to Michigan and all the fans basically went after Day and who knows what that relationship was like too. He was getting a lot of shit too for his defensive stuff, which he should have never done that, because if you forget what that defense was like before Knowles got there, I mean, that's a big part of it. So I think it was just probably a culmination of all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Chargers 22. Pick it at 22 again. Randy, where did you go?
I went with Mateo. You would Uiagalelei?
No, Uiagalelei. It's the same as his older brother.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, it's his brother. He's good.
The other one. But he's the good one.
Yes, he's the one that's actually produced, and he did that last year, 10.5 sacks. I think this was kind of my upside shot at edge of a guy that's probably day 2 for a lot of people right now that has a chance to just shoot up the board. And, Chargers, they've consistently each year kind of attacked the position. They brought back Khalil Mack this year, let Bosa go. I think they need to attack edge next year. I think they probably get 2. And this is a guy that at least fits that system. And I think he gives you a little bit of versatility with his size and speed. I do think, 6'5", 270, that's kind of the bigger body edge. I think they'll desperately need that. And I think he'll be able to continue to improve this year. And it's a good fit for this team.
He's got to definitely work on that consistency piece. Like there are moments where he disappeared, man, and like they really needed him on that defensive line. If he can dial that in, this is a great pick because I think that he has a ton of upside. Like, and maybe DJU should have played edge. Maybe he should have went the edge route when he was coming out of there.
Can't throw a football, so maybe he can get to the football.
Yeah. All right. I had Green Bay at 23, and they still are incredibly hard to draft for. So I just took Darius Taylor, running back out of Minnesota. People might think this is crazy because I know they have Josh Jacobs, but hey, they're out. They can get out of his contract this year. I think the way the contract works, I think it was a 4-year, but I think the second year is less dead money. Maybe something happens there. Darius is in my tier of one, running back 1 or 2s. Like when you're looking at what this class is, I think he could do a lot for Green Bay, what they like to do in that offense. I think that he's got to produce a little bit more this year. He's got to get over 1,000 yards rushing. You want to see that explosiveness a little bit. I think he still has, I think him and Love are very similar to my concerns for both of these guys. But I do think that if Green Bay wanted to go running back, if they were looking at it and saying, hey, we want to add another piece of this offense, Jacobs is not that guy. Marshawn Lloyd just hasn't become that guy. Maybe he has another down year. They'll grab Darius Taylor and just put him in there with Jordan Love.
Yeah. I mean, Green Bay shocked us last year. They drafted a wide receiver for the first time ever in the first round. So, so they could do a similar thing. And honestly, I mean, this Packers team should be good enough that they don't have a lot of needs right now, or they don't think they have a lot of needs with how they sign some free agents. So We'll see how they feel after this year. I think they still need some corner help personally, but like they don't. So we'll see how it plays out this year.
Yeah.
All right. I have the Rams at 24 as well. And I'm going to go ahead and take Caleb Lomu, the offensive tackle from Utah. I took 2 Utah offensive tackles. Remember how I talked about Utah's offensive unit should be good this year? They should. There are certain people who think Lomu has more upside than Fano. I think those people are lunatics, crazy people that need to throw the film back on. But Lomu is still very good. He is a little undersized or underweight, I should say. He's 6'5", super long, but he's sitting at under 300 pounds right now, and you can see it. There's certainly some times where he doesn't anchor very well. He can get pushed back, and he can overextend with his super long arms. But super tenacious player that I think can move really, really well for a 6'5" player. I think teams are going to be infatuated with this offensive tackle class, honestly. And as we were doing this, I was like, man, I probably should have taken Lomu like 5 picks ago, probably to the Bears, if I'm being completely honest with myself. But I just really want a good running back there. So as far as the Rams go, I think there's a chance that they're looking for long-term solutions at offensive tackle still. So we see it all the time where teams that don't necessarily have a pressing need at offensive tackle still take one because you just don't stumble into good offensive tackles all that often. So that's Lomo.
It's hard to get them outside the first round, so might as well take it here.
All right, I'm going to go through the last picks here, 25 through 32, and then these boys are going to be talking about one of the guys that they drafted in this range, just to give you guys kind of final wrap-up here of the first round. So we have Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. He goes 25 to the Commanders. At 26, we have Malik Muhammad going to the Bengals. He's a cornerback out of Texas. Austin Barber, offensive tackle out of Florida, goes to the Niners at 27. The Lions get David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech. Jalen Kilgore goes to Kansas City Chiefs, cornerback out of South Carolina. Eugene Wilson, the third, goes to Buffalo, wide receiver out of Florida. Buffalo still trying to find their wide receiver. Antonio Williams, Clemson wide receiver, going to the Baltimore Ravens. That is such a damn Baltimore Ravens pick there and the fit. And then Caleb Banks goes to the Eagles at 32, defensive tackle out of Florida. Randy, you have the board. You could talk about anybody, even somebody you didn't pick if you want to go there. Who you want to talk about in this group?
Yeah, I'll just go with David Bailey. Edge now, Texas Tech from Stanford. He led everyone in the rush grade last year in college football. 30.2 win rate. He is smaller. He's 240. We'll see what he ends up at Texas Tech, but I mean, he should be that top end guy that people are talking about. Just an athlete that's doing so much in the passing game. Obviously, you're going to want him to do more in the run, but at 240, there's only so much he's going to be able to do. So if he can prove that at Texas Tech, which I think he can, I think he'll be a first-round pick. And again, we talked about it this whole last year. We need a running mate. They paid for one, a mercenary for this year at edge rusher. I think you need the guy. They tried to win the 6th round this year. I think the Lions getting David Bailey here is a very smart move. Gives you versatility on that side as well, and allows at that playing size, it can be rotational for you this late in the draft if you need it. But I think he gives you that high upside on third downs. They absolutely cannot double team Hutchinson on the other side with Bailey on the other side.
Yeah, I candidly have not watched a whole lot of Bailey, so I don't have takes. So shout out Randy.
He just gets there. Is just how it is.
Yeah,
that's the only way I can really say it.
All right, I'll talk about Austin Barber. So I'll talk about 2 offensive tackles in a row because I don't really want to acknowledge my Eugene Wilson pick just because, I don't know. It was a weird pick where I think Buffalo certainly still is looking for a wide receiver, but I took one that has almost the same skill set as Khalil Shakir, and they've locked him into a long-term deal. So it's not the best pick that I've ever made, but you know what? That's why it's a way too early mock. You never know what could happen. Maybe they trade Khalil Shakir. But Austin Barber over for the 49ers. We talked about how this team really could have used an offensive tackle early for months, and then they picked all defense for the first 72 hours of the draft, it felt like. So now they're going to go back to the well, really protect their starting quarterback that's making $800 million, $800 million, it seems like. Brock Purdy's new deal is tremendous, but they're going to need to help him out. Trent Williams is getting old. Colton McKivitz is not very good. Austin Barber is an upside tackle that I think showed a lot of really good stuff. He certainly has things to work on, and there are some other offensive tackles in this class that could push for this spot. I just went with Barber because I think he has the movement skills that are required from a 49ers offense.
I can't believe you picked Eugene Wilson over Deontay Lawson at 30.
Listen, man,
I was so confused, and then I couldn't pick him. I was like, how the hell is he still on the board? But I'm like, I'm not picking up for the Ravens. So
the reason I did that is because I think they restructured Matt Milano or re-signed Matt Milano and also re-signed Terrell Bernard. And so I was like, I don't know if they can take a linebacker structurally, but I would like to. I think Deontay Lawson's probably a better player than half the wide receivers we took, so including the one at 14, but it's fine.
Yeah. I don't know how I didn't draft Deontay Lawson. I'll be honest, because I was like a Lawson guy last year, and I think I missed this. I missed the Lawson guy. That's a miss on me because I definitely probably should have drafted him a little earlier. The one guy I just want to talk about real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Malik, you guys know I love my Texas cornerbacks. I love Barron last year, and Malik Muhammad. To me, he's a very, very solid player. Now, I think I think the athleticism may hold him back a little bit, but he's lengthy. He has great instincts. When you watch him play out there, I thought he did really well there. And he can click and close in coverage. Like when you watch him play, like he does that 17 forcing completions. Like he can definitely cover. Now he's their corner one. So you're going to see how that develops and what he does against SEC teams and SEC talent. And he's got a huge matchup against Ohio State week 1. So we'll see how Muhammad does against Jeremiah Smith, possibly, if that's kind of how they line him up and that's how they do it there. But I think Muhammad's a guy to watch. If you're looking at corners, back end corners there, he's fun. And I think that he is a very, very solid player there. All right. Any final takes, boys, about this first round?
We probably won't see that many quarterbacks or wide receivers when the real
Yeah.
NFL draft
Or
comes.
running backs.
Or running backs.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not 3 running backs, but
guys that real quick, guys that were still on the board: Tyreek Sapp, Eric Singleton, Fernando Mendoza, who's been getting a lot of buzz at quarterback position at Indiana, Evan Stewart, Eli Stowers, Avion Terrell, Jonah Coleman, running back, Nico. I don't know why he's on there. Makai Hughes, running back out of Oregon. There's a bunch of different guys on there, so there's a bunch of different talent. And once we start really diving into like our off-season stuff, especially with the other position groups, we'll get some more guys in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
All right. I didn't want to cut you off. Sorry. I was just trying to get some other guys that were on the board.
No, that's
good.
I mean, I think this list is going to expand. I want to say we're going to have the most accurate, like August mock ever.
We might.
So across the, across the globe,
You know why?
We're definitely the most negative. There's no question with that.
Because we actually watch the players.
Yeah. That's for every team.
I could honestly say we watch more of these guys than most, but not everyone. I won't put that out there, but we do watch a lot of these guys. You know why? Because we're degenerates, and we like doing this stuff. So I do think that if you liked our draft coverage last year, I think our draft coverage is going to be even more in tune this year. We started in a weird spot last year at a weird time. Now this is the perfect time for us to kind of dive into this class, and we're going to go a full year with you now, like all the way from May to April next year of like all of these guys. And last year we kind of did like an August-ish. I think that we started this August. September was kind of weird where we kind of jumped into it. This year, really, especially over the summer, that's why you should download our podcast if you're on YouTube. Or if you're on the podcast, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hear them, because all the off-season scouting stuff that we do, all the other stuff that we're going to do, it's going to get you ready. And it's the dog days of summer, but we're excited here to bring that to you and get those off-season scouting. We got hot takes too. We are not afraid to share our opinions. That's the other thing too. So just know, like, we know we are okay being wrong. We are okay being right, and we're right majority of the time. And I can say that with confidence because I think that we put the work in. So go check out our Substack. Go check out our Patreon stuff that we like to do here. If you're interested in any type of fantasy football, NFL draft coverage, any of that stuff, that's the places to go check it out. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next week.